In Don DeLillo's 1985 novel White Noise, the main character Jack and his colleague Murray take a trip to visit the most photographed barn in America. DeLillo subtly sets the quintessential scene of the picturesque American farmland before bulldozing it with commercialism. There were meadows and apple orchards. White fences trailed through rolling hills. We walked along a cow path to the slightly elevated spot set aside for viewing and photographing. All the people had cameras, some had tripods, telephoto lenses, filter kits. A man in a booth sold postcards and slides, pictures of the barn taken from the elevated spot. We stood near a grove of trees and watched the photographers. As Murray and Jack watch, the tourists capture the barn from the same vantage point. Murray remarks, "No one sees the barn. Once you've seen the signs about the barn, it becomes impossible to see the barn." Their photographic counterparts soon filter away, quickly replaced by yet another herd of photographers coming to the exact same spot. Murray continues, "We're not here to capture an image, we're here to maintain one. Every photograph reinforces the aura. Can you feel it, Jack? The accumulation of nameless energies?" There was an extended silence. The man in the booth sold more postcards and slides. "Being here is a kind of spiritual surrender. We see only what the others see. The thousands who were here in the past, those who come in the future. We've agreed to be a part of a collective perception. This literally colors our vision, a religious experience in a way, like all tourism." Another silence ensued. "They are taking pictures of taking pictures." He did not speak for a while. We listened to the incessant clicking of shutter button releases, the rustling crank of levers that advanced the film. "What was a barn like before it was photographed?" he said. "What did it look like? How was it different from other barns? How was it similar to other barns? We can't answer these questions because we've read the signs, seen the people snapping the pictures. We can't get outside the aura. We're part of the aura. We're here. We're now." In a world consumed with posting online, social media has become the signs, and we, the consumers, the photographers, merely taking photos of photographs. You see it anywhere you look. Anywhere you open an app, you can be bombarded with advertisements and algorithms dictating what you're consuming and recommending content that is nearly identical to previous content. You can spend hours looking online at photos of the Eiffel Tower, the Golden Gate Bridge, etc., to the point that it no longer becomes a wonder, but just another piece of content whizzing by in your feed. When we travel, it's always to the same locations, driven by algorithms designed to constantly stimulate our brains. I, like so many of my contemporaries in this hyper-technological world, are being fed by the algorithm to feed the algorithm. A big reason I started this channel was to try and reconnect with our dwindling past, a past being left by the wayside in favor of technological and social media advancement. I am trying to accomplish this by rereading previous books to comb them for more insights, reading books I have never read before for new information, and engaging and discussing movies and music that I have either heard before and want to share, or have never heard and believe worthy of discussion. Of course, the hypocritical view of that exact method of rediscovery, is that most of the material was provided by algorithms in a fashion. By that, I mean my engagement with the algorithm drove me towards specific channels. But my decision to stay and engage with those channels or specific media, I feel, pushes beyond the superficial level of most algorithmic engagement, i.e. doom scrolling, into the realm of dictating personal choice and taste. As Kyle Chayka discussed in his 2024 book, Filterworld, building your own sense of taste, that set of subconscious principles by which you identify what you like, is an uphill battle compared to passively consuming whatever content feeds deliver to you. But the situation can't solely be blamed on the presence of algorithms. Today, we have more cultural options available to us than we ever have before, and they are accessible on demand. We are free to choose anything, yet the choice we often make is to not make a choice, to have our purview shaped by automatic feeds, which may be based on the aggregated actions of humans, but are not human in themselves. I find a lot of truth in this discussion of the degradation of personal taste. I myself have noticed the more and more that I interact with algorithms, the more it feels that any choices that I'm making are already predetermined for me, i.e. the books that I'm reading, the music that I'm listening to, it's all being filtered to me through algorithms, and it doesn't feel like I'm making a choice anymore. If you look back in time, say 20 years, you may not have had the algorithms then. You had human tastemakers making choices based on their personal opinion. The most important thing about that is that it was still a human deciding and not an algorithm giving me the same or slight different choices time after time after time. For instance, if I passively engage the oversaturation that I'm feeling from the algorithm, I feel an erosion of enjoyment in the things I enjoy, like books, movies, and television. Right now, I can go on Netflix and watch endless shows that will continuously run and run and run and not learn a single thing. All around us, it seems like everything is dwindling to easy passive consumption without the challenge. And that's not to say I am not guilty of that exact thing. I think it's 100% correct to admit, yes, I also am changed by the algorithm. The constant barrage of feeds and algorithms, the possibility of content has grown to near infinity. This is reinforced by Seth Godin's book, The Dip. He says, the problem with infinity is that there's too much of it, and in just about every market, the number of choices is approaching infinity. Faced with infinity, people panic. Sometimes they don't buy anything. Sometimes they buy the cheapest one of whatever they're shopping for. Faced with an infinite number of choices, many people simply pick the market leader. For many, the market leader is the algorithm and what it presents for them. What scares me about that statement is that Godin published it in 2006, and I can guarantee the number of infinity has increased exponentially since that point. With the trajectory of modern culture nearing a point of no return, and potentially almost grazing it already, the sheer act of trying to avoid the algorithm is work in itself. Likewise, the desire to truly develop a personal taste free of technological tastemakers can feel almost superficial and borderline cliche if presented as a vanity project online. As Naval Ravikant states, when people are putting up photos on Twitter and Instagram of, look at my pile of books that I'm reading, it's a show-off thing, a signaling thing. He says, I would rather read the best 100 books over and over again until I absorb them rather than read all the books. And if you tie that back into Godin, best is subjective. I, the consumer, get to decide, not you. World is selfish. It's my definition, not yours. It's the world I define based on my convenience or my preferences. Therefore, the best books would be the 100 best based on our personal taste, which can be different and ever-changing depending on development and growth, not a predetermined conglomerate list created simply to share on social media. They may not show up on the 100 best books of all time list, perhaps some will, but if you can begin to move outside the confines of algorithmic lists and decide for yourself what these books are, I believe we can begin to reestablish our independence aside from the technological tastemakers. The question arises, is there a way to develop personal taste and original experience while sharing that experience online? What I am finding more and more is that by not being chronically online, if I do engage with media and allow myself the opportunity to develop my own thoughts and feelings on a piece, I feel better and more engaged with that material before it moves into the online sphere. But of course, the catch-22 is that if I am trying to foster engagement online, I am also chasing the imaginary ghosts of likes and followers. So where would be the happy medium? And that is what I'm still trying to figure out. I think that's where I'll leave it for now. If you guys want to discuss any more further in the comments, feel free. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode in the ink binding.